This past week, many reports have come out on Indycar looking outside of the US for next season as they look to add another international race to the calendar. Currently, Indycar races in Canada and the United States. Since the inception of Indycar in 1996, they've raced in the United States, Japan, Canada, Australia, and Brazil. A brief history on this is, the start of IndyCar, they mainly just raced in the States. And then in 2003 through 2008, they added Motegi, Japan to the calendar. And then in around 2009, that's when they added Toronto, which is currently still on the calendar. And then 2010 through 2011 was really the year of international races as they added Sao Paulo, they had Motegi back, and they also raced in Toronto. And then since then, they've dropped off Motegi, and in 2014, they were no longer able to race in Sao Paulo. So in total, they raced in Sao Paulo from 2010 to 2013. And in those 4 years, Will Power won 3 races and James Hinchcliffe was able to win one of the other races. But as I mentioned, they no longer race there. And the main reason was due to the Brazilian government canceling the race. And so IndyCar originally had a contract that inked them to race in Brazil through 2019. But there was a last-minute cancellation in 2014, even after IndyCar sold many tickets to the race. The promoter couldn't find sponsorship, and so the government then took over this obligation, and ultimately they said it would cost too much of local funding, and they ended up canceling the race pretty hastily, as people described. And so, as I mentioned earlier, there are talks of bringing this race back. And so Brazil's not the only country in the mix. There's also been talks of Argentina, as we have Agustin Canapino in the racing series, and Mark Miles has reportedly recently visited the area as well. Also, Mexico is in the mix, as we have Pato O'Ward being a very popular driver in the series. And another track that is rumored to be added to the calendar would also be the Milwaukee Mile, though Wisconsin is not outside of the country. And so what are my thoughts? Well, with the current field being as diverse as ever, with 13 different countries being represented among the drivers, another race outside of the country would bring a lot to the series. You also have to consider that Formula One is sweeping the United States with its current Netflix series, and with adding 2 races here in Florida and in Las Vegas, really we need to take control and start asking ourselves, when is IndyCar going to start working outside of the United States, right? And so also considering the huge personalities I mentioned with Pato O'Ward, Agustin Canapino, you could also think of personalities like Helio Castroneves and Tony Kanaan, who are both from Brazil. It really, for me, I think Mexico and Brazil are very logical destinations, not only because of their proximity, but also because of the personnel we have and the history that is in these locations as well, as Formula One and other racing series have raced or even currently race at Brazil and Mexico both. And so that's something that also has to be considered. And then even on top of that, taking racing out of the picture, if we look at TV deals, IndyCar has recently inked a new TV deal with ESPN to stream their races in Mexico and Latin America, so it only makes sense to bring a race there, right? Something else I'd like to mention is that I feel there are a few gaps on the IndyCar calendar that need to be addressed. Truthfully, the first race of the season is in early March, and then there's this huge gap of almost a whole month until the next race in early April. And with them being already in Florida and Texas, typically in the beginning of the season, they're already in the southern United States. It would be an opportune time to add a race in South America or in Mexico. Another time I could see a race being added would be in June. There's a couple week period there, and I know that has been addressed in some of the articles I've read. They were looking to aim for some of these events being in June as well. And then also I'd like to address that there are many series that go past September, mid-September in their race schedule, and I think that if you go somewhere a little bit warmer during that month, it might be an opportune time to add a race to end off the year. But what do you guys think? What location would you like to see added to the IndyCar calendar? And as always, like and subscribe to see more motorsports content from the Rhino Racing channel. Have a good one.